Okay, so hi, hi everybody. How are you? You can hear me, right? So I'm at home. This is my bed. I like sleep in this bed like for I guess all my childhood, middle school and high school. And this is the net, the mosquito net. We all need it because I am back to my parents' house, and of course, lots of mosquitoes here, and we definitely need this mosquito net. How are you? So here's the thing. I plan to talk about part two of Ho Chi Minh Thought today. I will finish that. But before this, this morning I just woke up. It's like 10 a.m. in Vietnam, and the breeze is bad. It looks like it. It looks like it. I mean, like this, all the stuff like this, very pretty. I gotta say. Now about yeah, talking about safety. It's really sad that I just heard the news about another mass shooting just happened in Texas. And the newest news is 18 children got shot and 3 adults died. So total is 21 people. It's um it's really sad because I remember that 2 weeks ago I had when I had a Mooncast about I read comic books about Karl Marx, and there was also another mass shooting happened. The Buffalo, I think it was a Buffalo, and now it's Texas mass shooting. I don't know what to do, man. I really don't know what to do. What to say? It's just so sad. It's really, really sad that. What do you think about this, Conrad, in the chat? I mean, I want to hear your idea, your opinions about this. You know, there's a lot of like argument with against each other about the gun ownership of the USA. Now, here's my sincere thought. This is my sincere thought. I could be wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is just my thought. So like the core problem here. Oh, you're from South Carolina? My partner EJ is now is in South Carolina. This of course is horrifically numbing. Though lots of people, if you blame those mass shootings with like just gun ownership, I think that you are mistaking those symptoms to the with the like the real problem. You're mistaking if you watch my video about dialectical materialism, you're mistaking the phenomenon to the essence. Okay, so yes, if you look from the outside, it is because of the gun ownership that causes mass shooting, but actually gun ownership, that problem is just the symptoms of the core problem. The core problem is still, you know, the racism, the sexism, the indoctrination, the capitalist indoctrination, white supremacism there that make like Americans like so corrupted and rotten to the core. The gun ownership is just like, the direct, the false cause that you all see, but it's not the real essence of the problem here. There are 21 dead in Texas and 18 children. Yeah, I just said that. It's I am bad electronic noise. Bad electronic noise. Okay, let me try this thing. Check, check, check. Better, better, better. I'm sorry. I muted myself without knowing it. Okay. Hi there. I hope the audio is fixed now. So I guess that this thing it says that it will help us help me with like dealing with the the electric like pop in the audio part, but sometimes it also causes a pop. So it's a problem, another problem. So I just take it out. Okay, we good now. Okay, now back to the gun ownership bullshit. As I said, lots of you are mistaking the the phenomenon for the essence. Okay, gun ownership is just a very obvious thing that you see. It's like a lot of people, like especially conservatives and even conservatives, they say like, oh, because the U.S. allow like gun ownership, that is why they just keep shooting people. Like, no, it's not. The thing that makes like other people killing each other in the mass shooting on the street and in schools like that is because of something fucked up about their culture, about the society that encourage them to be like that. That's the liberals. Okay. Okay, now that's liberals. Oh god, this is news for me. God damn it, liberals. All right. Lips. I just. All right. Now, gun ownership doesn't even correlate to gun violence. Exactly. No. Like, no. Vietnamese people, we'll talk about the country like Vietnam. Every single citizen of Vietnam was trained with like throwing grenades and like running like how to use AK-47 and many other kind of guns and weapons like that. We also even learn like guerrilla tactics, but we're not that violent. We just learn all of that so we can defend ourselves in some emergency situation, like some invasion or like revolution or something like that. So gun ownership is not the reason why there's so many mass shooting in the USA. It's not. uh I don't I'm very sad right now. Then I feel hopeless right now. It's it's true. I'm trying so hard to stay, revolutionary optimistic. But when this shit happen, it's it's painful. It's heartbreaking, Innocent innocent people are dying because of how fucked up society over there, because of the capitalist indoctrination, because of white supremacism and racism, because of all the problems of coming from a collapsing society. But people there are so indoctrinated that they cannot see the reason why this happened, the reason why the society is so fucked up right now. Somebody told me that in just 2 months there will for like more than 40 mass shootings happen in the USA already. It's just so common that so many mass shootings just they were not even covered by the media, newspapers anymore. Yeah, please go watch EJ's video on revolutionary optimism. We all need that. We all need that in our life, especially in this situation. So, long story short, revolutionary optimism is totally different from just optimism. Optimism, lots of people believe, but we might have your own definition of it, but in my opinion, optimism is like applied faith. You believe that everything will be fine without having any actual, reality basis in it, in your belief. You just like blithely believe it. The revolutionary optimism is the opposite of it. It means you understand the reality. You know that it sucks. You know that capitalism sucks and you know people are dying. But we need to stay. We need to believe in the future that revolutionaries can, you know, fight and change and have and build a better society for everybody. And we have to work on that a lot. Ramsey is good. Yeah, Ramsey is awesome. I love Ramsey a lot. Oh, my hair today. All right. Sometimes I feel like this world is slowly burning down. I mean, the imperial core is burning down, not Vietnam. It's very peaceful here. Mass shooting based on like race, white supremacism, sexism. Just doesn't happen here. The last thing that I heard of, there were two like mass shooting that I ever heard of in the last few years in Vietnam. First, it was an ex cop. He was extremely corrupted, and he had a mass shooting, and he shot other cops. He killed one and injured five. I could be wrong, but yeah, that was a big news. So, a corrupted cop had a mass shooting, and he shot other cops. And another one was like a guy in the north of Vietnam, and he divorced, and he like was mad at his ex-wife's family, and he just took out a hunting gun and like shot at her family or something like that. It was like the last news about it, I think, in 2020, and that was very horrible. Yes, it doesn't mean, as I said, Vietnam is not perfect, and we did have some mass shooting, but it's very rare in Vietnam. It's super rare, and when it happened, it usually like cops shooting at other cops, or like the family like dispute something like that. I mean, of course, I never want that to happen, but it's rude. But like 18 children, 19 children died in the school mass shooting. The school mass shooting never happened in Vietnam. 30 years of my life, I never heard of it. Who fucked up enough to go to school and then shoot like students? Ugh, so sick. I still have revolutionary optimism because while most Americans are rehashing the same points today, I hear more voices like yours. Oh, I like the real causes than ever before. I'm happy to know that. I'm happy. And I say it again, it's not because of the gun ownership that causes. No. As I said, Vietnam is a country that we just had a war just a few decades ago, and every single citizen of Vietnam to this day still got trained in throwing grenades, using machine guns and AK-47, and learn like guerrilla tactics and learn like military orders. But we're not that violent. It is just for like self defense and prepare for emergency. And every single neighborhood of Vietnam, I think I need to talk a little bit about this. About 1.5% of our population joined the militia. Militia is a huge force in Vietnam. Well, like people from 18 to 40 year old for women and 18 to 45-year-old to men. can be volunteer. They can volunteer to join the militia in the area that they're living in. And one they register, and then if they got approved by the local government, they will be trained with all kinds of basic weapons for free, totally for free, and they even have some allowance every month, so not too much, but it's something. It's not a full-time job, it's just like a some part-time, and they will be trained in, AK-47 grenades, bullets, so kind of machine guns, another not, many other kinds of weapons too. And there's always been an armory in every single neighborhood of Vietnam. Something that's so Vietnam, you might say, look, these countries are very peaceful right now. We don't bring guns to the street. We don't shoot people on the street. But this country was a country that successfully defeated colonialist French, fascist Germany's imperialist USA, and then the fascist Pol Pot too. So don't even think that Vietnamese people are somehow like, naive or not violent people, or like we're easy to be oppressed. Like, we literally defeated all three most powerful like empires in the world just a few decades ago. So don't even look at us and think that we are like weak or something. We're not. But we are not as violent as the people in the US. It is because, as I said, white supremacism, because of the capitalist indoctrination of the collapsing society individualism that fuck you up, fuck your society up. That is why you have mass shooting in schools. Your people are so violent for no reason. I mean, for no reason to us, but of course they have their own reasons. Fucking fascist reasons. And that is it. That's what you have. A society where a warmongering and citizens in that warmongering nation are killing at each other, shooting at each other. While the society is collapsing, there's a baby formula happening right now. And after like 2 months, 3 months, it already happened. Only now, Biden decided to send like helicopters to Europe and bought like 35 tons of, only 35 tons of baby formula for the country after 3 freaking months having huge, terrible like crisis like that. Like, and no, nobody even talk about how to like stabilize the price of baby formula, the milk, the formula milk. Nobody talking about giving milk for free to parents or trying to get this to get the price stabilized. Like Vietnam right now, with the gas price, I just had a video talking about that. Right after the gas price of the world like drastically increased, we immediately in the same fucking month after like 2 weeks, I think, immediately had a national assembly summit. We all talk about it and how we deal with it. It's how hard it would be for reactionary to steal from the armory. It's pretty hard because usually the armory is run by the militia, the people that and in order to be approved to be in militia or the local government, you have some like have like some background check, to make sure that you're not reactionary. And because like even if a reactionary steal the armory, we would just open the armory and other people can go use those weapons to stop them. It's really fast, and I haven't really heard of any like you know like reactionary, took a machine gun and just smash shoot people. Like we don't do that in Vietnam. The very last news I heard about it was happened in like 2018, 2019 maybe, the Dong Tâm incident, where a bunch of farmers kidnapped 20, 19 or 20 police, and they did successfully kidnap those police and try to get their demand met. It's kind of funny, I gotta say. Um, Not every, yes, Isa is right. Not every Vietnamese communist is in the Communist Party. The vast majority aren't. So let's just say, we have 97 million people in Vietnam, and only about 5.2 million are members of the Communist Party. 5 million out of 97 million. And also, like the militia of Vietnam, only 20% of the militia members are the party member. 80% of them are not. So the thing is, it's not necessarily that not every Vietnamese communist is in the Communist Party like me. I'm not a Communist Party member, but I'm still communist. My brother is also a hardcore communist, and he's not a party member yet. He's actually thinking about it. He's about thinking about it, but not sure yet. But yeah, he's a hardcore communist too. Is voting mandatory there? No, it's not. But usually about like 95, 96% of Vietnamese population go voted. Believe it or not, not like the USA, a very a country of freedom, very extremely democratic country where only 50% of the population go vote. 50% of the people who can vote over like 18 years, in Vietnam, it's like 95, 96, even some years like 99% we went voting. The reason is that first, we only voted once every 5 years. So it's just like, just do it. It's very important. Just do it. You only do it once every 5 years. It's not a big deal. Why in the US, you go vote once every 2 years? I would be tired of voting in the US if I live in the US. So once every freaking 2 years, who can do that? We do that once every 5 years, okay? And also, if you watch my video about voting in election in Vietnam, you know that we make it very easy for people to go vote in Vietnam. If you're disabled, you have a health problem, or you're too old to walk out of your house to go vote, people will bring the election, the box, to your house so you can put your you know your ballot in. It's easy as that. It's Yeah, exactly. Being a party member is mostly for folks who want some kind of political career, from what I understand. Exactly. Like in Vietnam, because we already communist country, a Marxist nation. So vast majority of us are already communists, or at least socialists. And we only join the Communist Party is because we want to have a career, political career, such as like if you want to be like the community leader, or you want to work for the local government, you join the Communist Party. Or like my brother, he's working, he's engineer working in a power plant, hydraulic power plant, and he's thinking about maybe having some joining the Communist Party so he can like join more of the local like stuff in where he lives. I mean, yeah, the media in Vietnam encourage people to go vote but do not promote any specific candidate. Exactly, you're right. Yes, so it's just go watch my election video. There's so many things that you need to know about it. It's just totally different system compared to the West. So you lots of you would be shocked. You know about a system where like we don't endorse any candidate. No candidate can run any like personal campaign. The government, the local government will pay and we hold all the meetings with the voters. You know, have a talk, and then the candidates actually will have to talk to the voters to persuade us to vote for them. And it's pretty it's a very different system. It's not mandatory. Nope. It's so funny that like I remember that BBC or Reuters or something like that, or Human Rights Watch or something, they still report about Vietnam as like we like voting in Vietnam is mandatory, and if you don't go vote you'll be severely punished. Like, what are you talking about? Uh, I'm 30 years old, okay? And I should have been voted since I was like 18 years old, but my bad, but I didn't vote when I voted like last year, 30 years old. And then I should have voted when it was 20, 25, and then 30 based on the actual election happened in Vietnam. So since I'm old enough to vote, I went through three election, I think. One was when I was 20, when I was 25, and then when I was 30. And the first two, I didn't join. I didn't vote at all. My bad. I'm sorry. I didn't go vote. I didn't go vote. Um, and then in when I was 30 years, like last year, I went voting. So there was no punishment like that. It's like so bullshit, you know? I literally born and live in this country. I didn't go vote like twice. No punishment whatsoever. And then when I read about my own country from BBC and Reuters, they're like, you will be severely punished if you don't go vote because voting is mandatory. But I'm like, what are you talking about? What? Literally, my life experience. What? So this is like the amount of misinformation about my own country that I can't even wrap my head around it even until now. Voting is not mandatory in Vietnam, but our people tend to go vote like a lot because it's just easy to vote, and I mean it's not that hard. Just register like about 2 weeks before the election happened. Go register to your with your community leader. He will list your name in it, and then he will send me like some like letter, got my name on it, the date, and then just want the right time and the right date. Just went and go vote. Done. Once every 5 years. Just do it. In China, being a party member is a lot of hard work. How is it the same? Same. So it might sound like it might be easier for you to join a communist party member in your country, especially in a capitalist country like that. But um, in Vietnam, it's really hard. So it's kind of time consuming, you know. And there we have a lot of ways to contribute to the government, not just become like a party member. As I said, becoming a party member means that you want to advocate for, have a political career, something like that. And for example, hey, why there's no sound? What's this sound? Check, check, check. One, two, three. Wait a minute. Is there any sound? What? What? Yeah. Okay. Okay. It is on your end. Okay. Cool. So in Vietnam, I'm thinking about joining a Communist Party member in a few years. I really just don't have a time right now, and I travel a lot. I don't have a really much time to work on my local area a lot, so I haven't decided to join the Communist Party member yet. But a long story short, the way to be a Communist Party member in Vietnam is that you have to, I mean, like register to the local government where you live, and if and then they will send you somehow like uh you know Marxism Leninism class. You study for a few months, and then you pass the exam. You have a final like certificate that you pass this exam, and then the local government will assign an already Communist Party member in your local area. So they will be like your personal tutorial or something like that, tutor, something like that. And you work with them for about a year, and they will just like work together, organize together, and they will evaluate our performance after a year. And after that, the local government and with that tutor, along with that tutor, will decide that you will be officially a party member or not. So it's like it's not too hard, but it's a really time consuming, and it requires a lot of like organizing in your participant in the area that you're living in. So it's like that. Can a Communist Party member compete against other Communist Party? What do you mean? You mean like election? Of course, we always run against each other like that. Because as I said, certainly it's become a stream about election in Vietnam, but that's fine. That's fine. A lot of you think like this because you have the system of like multi-party system, and usually you see like people from different parties running against each other, and people from the same party usually like protect, like work with each other, protect each other, and something like that, right? In Vietnam, is different because we have a one-party system, but actually it feels like there's no party. Because once you join, because you don't need to be Communist Party member to join the election in Vietnam to work for the government. You don't need to. Okay, you can run as like non-party member. That's totally fine. All right. Now, for the same Communist Party, like at the last election that I joined, there were 6 candidates and five. There were 5 candidates, and 4 out of them were actually Communist Party member. There was only one that was not Communist Party member, right? So 4 of them were Communist Party and members. And hi, EJ. Let me wear my headphones first.
Oh,
all right.
I'm just popping in.
Okay, you can talk.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very tired.
I know. Look at your face. Look at that gorgeous face.
Oh, look at that gorgeous face. You look shiny like a K-pop star.
I don't know why.
You sweating?
No, I'm not. It's just because my skincare products and go home is a little bit like humid, so that is why my skin looks like shiny.
Red Scary wants to read something by Ho Chi Minh. I think they need to read your Revolutionary Ethics book for translation.
Oh.
But that's not out yet.
You can go check out, Vijay Brakshad's book.
Vijay Prashad, did a translation recently. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Good suggestion. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Comrade May says, "Why does EJ give off Unabomber vibes?" Words hurt, Comrade May. I'm a materialist, but ideology does impact my material heart.
Wow.
I'm tired, and I am in the woods, but
Oh, really?
It's not like you think. I just wanted to pop on for a second because I wanted to talk about the whole like ideological training aspect.
Ah.
I think that's the big edge that I can't speak for any other place or whatever, but that's the edge the Vietnamese socialists have, and that's what allows you to succeed. That's how you won the war. And I think in the West, I don't know, this is a little chip on my shoulder, so I wanted to pop in and just talk about this real quick. There's this idea that like political training and instruction and having an ideological foundation is like authoritarian
What?
indoctrination.
Excuse me?
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
Lots of
it's a
people have
ding dong.
accused you of being brainwashed because you were like taught dialectical materialism and Marxism and given a
You're right.
foundational platform of ideology.
For a second, I forgot about it. For a second, I was back being innocent again.
You became naive again.
I guess moving back with my parents for a while just make me like innocent again.
So listen, I'm not going to name the name of this organization, and it's not the only organization I've heard this stuff from. But recently I was talking to some folks in an org, and I was suggesting that they start doing some kind of cadre training. Cadre training is how Ho Chi Minh went from having 10 people who secretly crossed the border from China into Vietnam and built a communist party that ended up defeating the French, the fascist Japanese, and the imperialist USA in military and political warfare. Yeah. Cadre training is when you take a small group of people and like one person will train 10 people.
With the best potential.
Yeah. You find the people with the best potential, and then, you train them, you teach them how to train others, and then they go and they train others, and then they train others. And it's like kind of like a pyramid scheme, except everybody wins.
I gotta say, like, it's just like looking for teachers. Kids.
And there used to be a tradition of it more in the West. I mean, like Pedagogy of the Oppressed talks about how to like, teach working class people about their own oppression, since that information is restricted from us in our education stuff. So, okay. I was talking to my friend a couple days ago, and he has kids, right? And he was talking about how hard it is to be a parent because he doesn't want to like brainwash his kids and indoctrinate them too much. And so for a long time, he's like just kind of avoided telling them what to think about political things. But then he realized recently that like, if he doesn't talk to them, other people, you're giving instead of taking. Thank you. That's a good way to put it. Dorian Sapiens. Yeah. But he was saying like, if he doesn't talk to his kids, other people are going to, and they're going to have they're going to control the narrative.
And the mainstream media will.
Yeah. So you can't be like too hands off.
You have to give, you have to give your children or your comrades, the newbies, some preparation, some foundation to fight against that. It's not indoctrination, it's preparation. But it's so weird that your society is so fucked up that you think that any kind of education is indoctrination. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, I didn't finish talking about that org. So, okay. So I was just suggesting to them that they should do cadre training and that they should have ideological training for like every new member. And they have to like, and I'm sorry to say this, I know it sounds authoritarian to Westerners, but you have to at least name the ideology you're pushing. Well, yeah, I know. Like
exactly.
Well,
that is exactly what we do what we have been doing in Vietnam. When we learn Marxism, Leninism, we learn communism, capitalism. We've been giving, the consent, like, okay, so this is Marxism, Leninism, this is what it means, and this is capitalism, this is what it actually means. So it means that like when I study Marxism, Leninism in university, I know exactly like, okay, I'm now this class named Marxism, Leninism class, and this class means like the micro economy and macro economy, something like that. It's like I had no confusion.
Right. That's what Good Morty's talking about here. Like in the USA, we're not taught the name of our ideology. We don't know that we're being indoctrinated at all. Exactly. That's like the scariest kind of. That's what brainwashing is like when you're indoctrinated and you don't even know you're being indoctrinated, right? Yes. So back to the story. I was telling this org, I really suggest you do some kind of cadre training and you
Mm.
have a foundational ideological like platform
Yeah.
that you all share. And so, because like
Mm.
part of it is like Luna and I can talk about political things very efficiently. Now that
Yeah.
I understand dialectical materialism and she knows more about anarchism, we kind of speak the same language on things. When we talk about stuff, we know what
Yeah.
each other are talking about and we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we agree about everything, but it
Exactly.
means that we have a framework. We have frameworks to discuss things that makes it expedites political conversation. And we both know that fundamentally we share a same vision for the world. We share same goals, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all need that. Every organization has to have that to some extent or another, right?
Exactly.
And they said, well, we don't want to be a book club. We don't want to become a
Gosh.
book club, right? So that's one reaction that I've seen. And then I've also seen a lot of people say that it's like authoritarian and you can't like tell people what to think and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, if you're not on the same page about specific things,
If you
then you're not going to, it's going to fall apart eventually. And if you don't know that you're
exactly,
not on the same page, it'll fall apart spectacularly.
they doomed to collapse if they don't even have a basic foundation.
So I don't know. I find it frustrating because I think that's something that's really going to hold back at least folks in the USA until there's some kind of, that's what the Black Panthers did. Okay. The Black Panthers were doing praxis, right? They were out there
Yeah.
feeding kids. They were doing cop watching. They were doing shit, right? And that developed their theory, but they were doing
Theory.
political training at the same time.
Whoa.
The
As you
Black
say,
Panthers
like
were like
you
super,
must have a theory and then you practice it and you go back and change the theory to fit the material condition. It's like a feedback loop. You cannot just refuse theory and just practice.
and it's really frustrating when people call that being a book club. Like, okay, it is true that overindulging in theory without any praxis is it's like Ho Chi Minh said, if you only know theory and you don't do practice, you're just a bookshelf, and you don't want to be a bookshelf. But you have to have a feedback loop between your theory and your practice. It's very fundamental. So
And the action without theory is blind action. Ho Chi Minh said that too. Theory without action is dogmatism,
yes,
but
you need
action
both.
without theory is blind action, and you will be doomed to fail.
To me, it's fairly obvious to me now. But I mean, I was resistant to it before too,
Ah,
But people think that the way forward is through conversation and talking and debating. And
I'm
that's another
so
thing the Black
happy
Panther
that you are
said.
not like that anymore. Like, fuck.
Fred Hampton said all the time, we can't just talk and we can't just listen. Because back in the
Okay,
60s,
this is a
oh,
comment from
translate this.
another Vietnamese comrade. They are observation.
Okay.
This is this is a problem of the West is that they want to simplify everything. For example, just explain to me like I'm a 5 year old.
Yes.
But in fact, there are things that not simple at all, and they like they need to understand that there are many things that like very complex, and you cannot just explain a 5 to a 5 year old.
You can't explain Das Kapital to a 5-year-old.
You can't. I'm
And if you
sorry.
try to do it, you're losing so much nuance. Yeah, it's totally
I
true. Like,
tried to learn Das Capital when I was 18, and it was crazy.
see, in America, we think that boiling things down to like a very simple version is like wisdom or something. It's like it's reductionism is like a huge thing here. And it's like they want everything to be like chopped down into like bite-sized little, like, axioms and stuff. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand. That's why I'm really into this whole schizoanalysis thing.
Mm.
I think that's what I want to learn more about that. I want to study that more because I think there's something to it. It's like the idea of trying to, when you're analyzing something, go out of your way to make the analysis as complicated as possible and find as much nuance as possible. That's the problem with the current left here in Chile. They refuse to use leftist terminology to avoid being accused of being ideologically motivated. I mean, if you have to be crypto because like you're going to be murdered for being a communist or something, I understand. But I think you should be as open as you can be given your material conditions. I mean, but anyway, I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating to me. As an American, I can admit it's because of our school system. Well, you know, and it's like our politics too. The politics that we see every day are like, for instance, you know, when politicians have debates, Republicans and Democrats, when they have debates, the presidential debates and stuff, they always say things like, "Really, it's simple. Let's cut through all the crap. Let's cut through all the bullshit." That's like the American idea, right? Like my mentality. We got to cut through all this bullshit. At the end of the day, it's really simple. Obama used to say it all the time. Remember? Let me be perfectly clear. Let me be clear. And they just would try to like say something very simple. And it's like, that's how we're trained to think. Like, if it sounds complicated, it must be bullshit. It must be wrong. I'm telling you, that's the culture. And that's what I get from, I've been talking to a lot of people here and a lot of conservative people, a lot of liberals. You know, most of the people I'm talking to are not radicals. And that's the mentality. It's like, it's my culture. It's, and I'm not talking down to anybody because I swear to you, I promise you, I always feel like I have to caveat this. I'm not talking down to anybody because this was me for most of my life. And I still struggle with it. It doesn't come easy to me. Like all the stuff that you teach me, Luna, about comprehensive and historical analysis and stuff does not come easy to me.
Wow.
It's a struggle, and I have to check myself all the time because I'm always slipping into these like oversimplistic mindset.
Wow. So it's biggest difference between us, huh? Because I've been receiving this kind of education like from day one. Because I have no problem at all. Seriously, I have no problem at all having like trying to investigate before I speak, or like no trouble of learning the actually, you know what, it's my opposite. Like when I hear about a thing or problem, I always tend to look all kind of aspect because it's so fascinating seeing all the reason why this thing happened, to see the complexity of it.
Yeah.
I feel like being able to see the complexity of a thing is like showing that like I'm like at least like like major in in like development like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I always I love that feeling when like I found a new aspect that I haven't heard of before.
Well, part of the problem, Luna, hold on. Can we talk more about schizoanalysis? I'd love to, but I need to read a lot more. I'm still reading the first book on it.
Maybe next broadcast.
Maybe next broadcast. I'll try to do some cramming over it. But if you just Google it, I think the Wikipedia page will tell you some good sources to read first. I'm so tired I can't remember the French guy's name who wrote one of the texts. But we will talk about this more moving forward. So just keep tuning into the streams, and as we learn more, we'll share more. But another thing, Luna, is that
see, you're not acting like debate bros. You don't know about things.
I'm not pretending to be an expert on something that I've barely read much about. I just think it's interesting. Also, by the way, it might be bullshit. I'm still investigating it myself. It's just something I want to learn more about, because from the surface, it seems like it's something where they're trying to find more nuance and draw more complexity out of things. But another problem, Luna, is that, Delu and Guttauri. Thank you so much, Dolores Kelly. You really appreciate that.
See, but another thing, Luna, is that it all. Yeah, keep talking.
Right. Because we don't have. Okay, so dialectical materialism, right, is a great framework for examining very complex issues.
Yeah.
Marx and Engels developed dialectical materialism because capitalism is so complicated.
Yeah.
That there was not a philosophical framework that was capable of. They needed a universal philosophical framework that allows you to analyze something from every single angle, right?
Yeah.
We don't have that training in the USA. So I'm talking about myself here as much as anybody else. Without that kind of framework, it's really hard to hold like multiple thoughts in your head at once and to do systemic analysis, right?
Yeah.
So that's why so much metaphysical distinction and separation and stuff happens in Western philosophy. So we'll be like, okay, there's a mass shooting. The problem is guns. Okay, there's it's all very like metaphysically distinct. Okay,
What
there are
about the
homeless
baby
people.
formula crisis? So, what are they explaining it? How are they explaining it?
Who, the right wing or the left wing?
The right
And that's why
winger.
everything gets politicized too. Everything gets
Yeah.
politicized and like, okay, like if you're an American, right, and you sound, if you're skeptical of what I'm saying, right, how is it? Think about this for a minute. How is it that every single fucking issue somehow or another always gets distilled down into one side and another side, right? Like wearing a mask becomes politicized. Every single fucking thing in the USA gets distilled down to one side and another side. Like things are just way more complicated than that, but somehow everything in our society gets boiled down to there's one side and another side. It's because the Republicans want to boil everything down because that's how they're trained. They're trained. And I know because I was working in political communications for a little while. They're trained to make everything boil it down into sound bites, make it all as simple as possible, make it so a 5-year-old can understand it. So if you wear a mask, you're a mask hole. I just learned that for the first time talking to some conservative family members today. If you wear a mask, you're a mask hole. If you want to get the vaccine, you're you're being, I don't know. Anyway, it's like everything gets distilled down to these really simplistic, bite-sized, metaphysically distinct categories of understanding. 5-year-olds don't vote for very good reason. It does feel like 5-year-olds vote sometimes, though, in the USA. So, but anyway, dialectical materialism is a framework that allows you to look at things from various example, so when Luna and I disagree about stuff now, the conversations are a lot more nuanced than they used to be, right, Luna? Don't you think so?
Yeah, believe it or not, we do disagree with each other.
But it's like we're able to have these conversations in which we can look at things from and it's just like a different way of looking at the world. And
Yeah.
that's and to obtain that takes time and study and practice, and
And
it's hard.
patience.
It's still hard. I'm still learning it, right? I'm not,
Patience and respect to
yeah,
each
I'm not
other.
fluent in this stuff yet. The way that Luna probably is, because you've been like in this your whole life. But like
It's
even
like water
anarchism,
to me. It's
even
like
with the
water.
anarchist philosophy, it's like Western anarchists want to, like, okay, or let me say this: white anarchists want to boil everything down and make it all really simple. But when I read black anarchist literature, it's way more nuanced. Like if you read like uh, Leaving the Progressive Plantation, or there's all kinds of like black anarchist texts. If you go to like read the Rosa Negra's Black Anarchist Reader, it's just like way more. There's way more nuance than the shit that most white anarchists are talking about. I'm sorry to say, I'm a white anarchist myself, so again, this is a self-crit as much as anything. I mean, like this issue of nationalism, right? Like that's one of the things that multiple articles in the Black Anarchist Reader talk about, the fact that white anarchists want to simplify the concept of nationalism so much and like throw black nationalists under the bus and throw colonized nations who want nationalism and liberatory nationalism. We're talking about, Luna has a whole video on it, go watch it. But they want to like conflate that with like fascist right-wing chauvinistic
Yeah.
nationalism, and so frustrating. You're exactly right on the binary thought of Americans, because America is a liberal democracy and liberals experience everything in a vacuum. And that's by design. That's a calculated, designed thing.
Yeah.
It is. They sit down and they think, what's the angle? It's like political correctness. Actually, me and BP were talking about this
Mm.
when I was hanging out with BP. Overthrow Media, everyone subscribe. I think was in the chat. I know you're working on a video, BP, but anyway, BP was talking about political correctness, right? And I realized from what BP was talking about, because BP was talking about like, okay, so for instance, this was a really great point that BP made. We need to have a whole stream about this one day with BP. But BP was talking about how, and correct me if I'm wrong, BP, and I'm paraphrasing here, so I might get some things wrong, but basically BP was saying like, one of the problems with political correctness is that it creates a hierarchy in which the people who who are able to navigate political correctness and say the right words and not say the wrong words and weaponize words and that sort of thing, they get more social currency and more social, basically, power, and they get higher up in the hierarchy than people who don't have all the training. Like, so for instance, me, I'm college educated. I have a liberal arts degree. I've been trained in like rhetoric and shit like that in ways that it's easier for me to, you know, I have been trained to utilize language, and
Mm-hmm.
that can be used, I can weaponize that more readily than somebody who has less education, right? And I'm not, of course, there's exceptions to that, whatever, but like people who are privileged enough to have a bachelor's degree, generally speaking, broadly speaking, are going to be able to navigate that kind of,
Narrative.
because we're talking about essentially advanced application and utilization and manipulation of language, right? So there's a higher, so political correctness is this kind of cynical thing where you're being correct for political reasons, political gain, personal gain. And I think what BP said was it should really just be about respect. And we should be trying to pay attention, like, are people respecting each other or not? And if somebody says something and it's kind of off, was it coming from a place of disrespect?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't, and if it was an honest mistake, then that correction should be, very gentle, and really should be like, we need to be paying attention to how we do things like that. Like, because like am I making sense? So, my point in talking about all this stuff is that when politicians, okay, so back to the thing with politicians. When politicians, and I know this from, again, working in political communications, whenever a new topic comes up, like COVID, everyone says, okay, what's the angle? How are we going to talk about this? And everyone gets on the same page. And that's why you can find those supercuts where you'll have like 30 people going on the national news in one night, and they all have the exact same little talking point that they bring up. And literally, like word for word, you can find supercuts of people where they'll all say the exact same sentence and slip it into conversations, because there are political consultants and flacks and PR people and think tanks, and they all get together and they say, this is our angle for this issue, and we're going to try this out. And they try it out, they trot it out, and see if people bite or not. It's very calculated. It's not an organic thing. It's something that these people, the power behind the throne, really design. And it's to make things as simple as possible and boil it down and make it as basically like, yeah, explain it like I'm five as possible. And it's to draw these lines and divide the working class.
Exactly. I mean, and it is a thing that, talking about, how it is by design that you are not trained in like systemic thinking. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the opposite to me. So like when I learned about the baby formula just is happening in the US, I look for all information and try like mostly I just try to find Vietnamese articles talking about why is it happening in the USA. And I mean it is a thing that I we usually don't tend to boil down a problem into like simply like to simplify it. No, we don't. We try so hard to like I think that we have an opposite problem when we call it like we make things more complicated because like, we
Mm-hmm.
try to look at things from like more
Revisionism.
angles more yeah. So especially you think about especially the thing between like Ukraine and Russia thing. If you just go to a random like communist Facebook page in Vietnam and seeing people like hundreds of people argue in a respect manner, but like we argue a lot about that situation because nobody tried to boil it down to simple like
Yeah.
explanation. Everybody trying to like from this angle, from that angle, from this perspective, from that perspective. So yeah.
Yeah. BP is still here. Said white folks are conservatives, including anarchists. They are always searching for tradition, going back to idealized days versus trying to evolve new thoughts and ideas. That's a great point. And another reason why I think Vietnam is doing well is because you implicitly see theory as a living thing that must be creatively
Yeah.
applied and advanced and developed.
Yes. Yes.
Right? There are things that you've developed beyond Ho Chi Minh. right? There are things that Ho Chi Minh
Yes.
said that don't apply
Yes.
anymore, and you recognize that. So, um, curious if you can give your take on how replacement theory is indoctrinated into white Americans. Oh, it's simple. I mean, we're terrified. We're all terrified. Look, when I was like, I remember, and I know I'm going to leave soon because I want Luna to start talking about Ho Chi Minh Thought again. So I'll try to make it quick, and then I have one more point, and I'll be gone. But I mean, I remember when I was like probably I was in elementary school, probably 8 to 10 years old, and I was sitting in the office waiting for my mom to pick me up for a doctor's appointment or something, and I saw there was a magazine, and I saw an article that was about how white people will be the minority in the USA by like 20 whatever, 2020 or 2030 or 2040 or whatever. This was in the 90s, and I remember being like scared of that. It's like there's a fear in it's an underlying fear in white culture that other people are going to treat us the way that we've treated them. And part of it is the way that we are taught history, like the way we're taught history is it's in such a way to make it seem as though colonization and the genocide of indigenous people and stuff was the rational thing for those white people to do. That's the way we're taught history, right? Like manifest destiny, and basically it's like the rational thing for those white Europeans to do was to go and conquer the new world. That's the way we're taught, right?
Mm.
None of those people were doing anything wrong. They were doing what was rational and what made sense for them at the time. They were looking, they needed freedom of religion. They needed space where they can have their own farmland. They needed to go out and be pioneers and go into this undiscovered territory and settle it and civilize it. That's the way we're taught it, right? So when you're taught that colonization is the rational choice and that displacing and genociding other people for your own benefit is the rational choice, then it imposes a paranoid worldview when dealing with other people, because suddenly if it feels like, oh no, white people are going to become the minority, oh no, that means that all the other people who aren't white are going to treat us the way that we treated them because that's the rational thing to do. That's the mindset. When the French people were colonizing Vietnam, they didn't see themselves as the villains.
Ah,
They
they
saw
saw
themselves
themselves
as
as
the
like
settlers that were going in to
civilizers.
civilize and Christianize and
Uh huh.
bring
Uh huh. Uh huh.
civilization to the Vietnamese people. And so obviously they're going to see every other civilization as a threat, the way that they were indoctrinated to become a threat to other civilizations. So, and then there's ripple effects and it gets more complicated than that. But I think that's the simplest, like, kernel of the idea. I had a teacher who taught that the conquistadors were not colonizers, but modernizers. Yeah, I was taught that shit too.
Oh
I mean,
gosh.
like, hey, I had teachers that were Christians and said that it was a great thing that the Europeans brought Christianity to the New World.
Oh gosh.
So I don't know. That's my take on it. I mean, it's obviously more complicated than that, but I think that's an important component to it. Now, one last thing, paraphrasing BP. BP said that, like, in the West, especially with white folks, we tend to simplify the complicated and overcomplicate the simple, right? I think that's a great line from BP. But, like, one of those points is that, one question, the education system in the U.S. synchronized, or are they separate from school to school? It's separate from school to school. I'm from South Carolina. I'm from one of the most conservative parts of the USA. This might not be true in California to the extent. I have a sneaking suspicion it's fundamentally true everywhere, right? But it will probably manifest differently in different places. They might layer on a lot more white guilt, for instance, in California, but fundamentally, I think it's probably the same, just because white cultures has become pretty monolithic since like the 20th century, I think. But anyway, that's just I haven't been everywhere and I didn't go to school
White
everywhere,
culture. You just
quote
said the
unquote,
word.
artificial white culture. But last thing I want to say real quick, and then I'll skedaddle. But there is one arena, I think, in which we in the West do find a lot of complicated analysis, and it's in shit like QAnon and conspiracy theorizing. because they'll sit around and come up with the most convoluted, complicated shit in the world. But the reason that they do that is because their fundamental worldview doesn't reconcile with reality. So, for instance, if you're a white male presenting person like I was growing up and everything, and you're told if you go to college and you study really hard and you work really hard and you start a business and you're smart enough and you do all the right things, you'll succeed. And then when they go out in the world and it doesn't work like that, and on a fundamental level, reality doesn't line up with those simple maxims that you're presented with, work hard, study hard, go to school, you'll do fine. When reality doesn't play out the way that you're promised it will with those simple maxims, you don't question the maxims. You start looking for all the complex conspiratorial reasons why other people are stopping the maxims from working the way they're supposed to.
I see.
You don't question the maxims. It must be some other underlying deep conspiracy that's preventing you from succeeding, because it can't possibly be
The
that
maxim.
the maxims themselves are wrong. So, and I think that leads to a lot of overly complicated analysis, when in reality it's just, the simple answer is capitalism is fucking you over and the maxims are wrong. But anyway, that's all I got to say for now, folks. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I just mostly wanted to just say, get out there and train yourself and train other people. And if you're in an org, start pushing for ideological training, because I think it's really important. That's my PSA for today. Love you, Luna.
I love you too. Kiss me. Okay. Okay.
Bye.
I start talking about Ho Chi Minh Thought now because I just want to finish it. Ho Chi Minh Thought for absolute beginners. The lesson starts now. Okay, last Mooncast, we talk about the first 3 points, 3 important points of Ho Chi Minh Thought, 2 or 3. I don't remember exactly. The first point that we studied in the last Mooncast was Ho Chi Minh's thought on, the problems like the national liberation and the class liberation and finally the human liberation. Long story short, he believed that in order to liberate whole humanity, we'll have to go step by step, and there are 3 main steps. Step first, you have to gain liberation, your nation, your people. And then based on that, you will liberate your class, the proletariat. And finally, we will liberate the whole humanity. And it's very important like that. All right? We call it like Ho Chi Minh Thought on the revolutionary path of Vietnam. The second important point is about, what is it? Let me look at it again. After successfully liberated your nation and your people, the second point is that the national liberation must go hand in hand with building socialism. So it means that once you decided to liberate your own nation and to free your own people, you have to run the society towards socialism and communism. All right, that is very important, and this is a very, very important point of Ho Chi Minh, and it is extremely long. I'm sending you the link right now so you can read it in Vietnamese. It is in Vietnamese, and if you want to read it, you have to translate it into English. In the second important point, Ho Chi Minh talk about, how to what socialism means and what is the target, the purpose of building socialism. And the next smaller point, important point in that is that how about the path, the socialist path of Vietnam. And the last is how to build an economy in this kind of transitional period, like modernization, industrialization, building a strong economy, something like that. And yep. And the last point of this important point is to protect your country. You have to be able to protect the revolution, the society that you're trying to move towards socialism. So that is like the very big point of Ho Chi Minh. And I will say this again. I just, if you have the pen and a note, write it down. Okay? Long story short, last Mooncast I taught you. First, Ho Chi Minh Thought believed that in order to liberate humanity, first you have to liberate your nation and then liberate class, the, the proletariat, and the final step is to liberate the whole humanity of the whole world. All right? And in order to right after leaving your like liberated your own nation and your own people, you have to immediately follow socialism. Or that is again, that is for Vietnam only. I'm not saying that you have to do the exact same thing Ho Chi Minh did. No, Ho Chi Minh just wrote this thing just for Vietnam, for Vietnamese people only. Okay. After successfully liberate the nation, your people, you will have to immediately build socialism in the society. And in order to build socialism means that you have to have a strong economy, you know, and strong society with good political education. And the last thing is that you have to be able to protect what you've been successfully like started, what you started. So as I said last time, I said that a lot of people like think like said like, oh, Vietnam is traded to communism because we still have a militarism, we still have a borders. Like, of course, in this capitalist hellhole, after you successfully had a revolution and you started the construction of communism, of socialism, you have to be able to protect that, or else everything would be in vain. That is very important. You need to be able to protect yourself, and that is what military and border is for. Of course, in a society where we eliminated fascism and capitalism and nobody would threaten anybody, we will eliminate our borders and our military and dissolve our military and destroy our flag. We will join the whole, the world's the global like community movement. But for now, we cannot do that yet. Okay, the third important point of Ho Chi Minh that I want to talk about today too is Ho Chi Minh taught about the great unity of the whole nation. It is very important. So in Vietnam, we have 54 ethnic minorities with different languages and different cultures. And that is very important for each of the ethnic minority can maintain their own identities, their own language and cultures while still joining the great unity of the country to build socialism to protect our motherland from all kinds of enemies in the world. That is very important. That is it is like you have a society of different identities, but there's no racism there. Just like in the U.S., if the U.S. follow what Vietnam did, you will have like, an ethnic of like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but black people, Asian people, indigenous people like that, and every single one of them Hawaiian people, and every single one of them have the right and receive the help from the government to maintain, to preserve their culture and their languages, and they will be proud of their own identity. They will give like the support from local government while they still maintain, they still unite with each other, the big unification to protect the country. It's like that. It's just simple as that. But we need that. So it's opposite in the US right now because Hawaiian language have been banned in their own land, even I think even to this day. Lots of Hawaiian children were born without being able to speak their own language, and their identity is being erased, and they being treated horribly by white people and by the government, by the states, and that is what we want to stop, what we want to end. Okay, and in order to in order to encourage people to unite with each other, the government have to make sure that the livelihood, of all people of all ethnic groups being like secured, such as they will have farmland to grow food, they have a house to live in, they have food, and kids can go to school. That is a very basic demand that we did. All right, the fourth important point of Ho Chi Minh out of six is that we is very important to build, we call it văn hóa con người. It means that the human culture, it is very important in Vietnam to build a human culture. And what does that mean? Ho Chi Minh, he had a very famous quote. He wrote it in 1958, I think, in one of the speech. He said, in order to have a socialist society, you have to have first socialist people who understand socialist ideology, have a socialist values and socialist manners. That is the core point, is the fourth important point of Ho Chi Minh Thought. To build a human culture means that a culture of humanity that understand, socialism, the purpose of building socialism, what socialism means, to move forward to a greater purpose is to liberate the whole humanity. Because of course, how can you have a socialist society without having people who understand socialism and want to build it first? That's very important. And because again, Ho Chi Minh thought this is about Vietnam only, for Vietnam only. So what we teach each other is this: like, to build a human culture in a new society, there are five important points. Must. First, we have to have like a mental preparation for our people. Means that like we must be self what do you call it? It's not like Zuche, but like uh suddenly I forgot the word. Self uh self shame uh, tự chủ, đúng không? Forgot the word. You can protect yourself. Self-sufficient. Thank you so much, Chat. I lost my ability now. Self-reliance. Self-sufficient. Yes, yes, yes. The very first point Ho Chi Minh made is that you have to teach. You have to have a mental preparation for our people, our Vietnamese people, that you must be self-reliant. My phone is very weird. I turn off the Wi-Fi and the 3G, but it just still automatically turn on and then have a notification. It's very annoying. All right, all right, all right. Self-reliant, Jesus. All right, Vietnamese people, we need to be self-reliant. We cannot wait for the help and support from other country. It is this is why we we share a lot of feelings and emotion, and also like sympathy. We sympathize with North Korea because we agree with each other that a country, especially a Marxist nation, being like attacked and destroyed and sabotaged by capitalist countries in the world, we first have to be able to self-reliance. Means that we have to be able to protect ourselves and be able to feed our own people without just waiting for other countries to come help, because we had so many bad experience with those countries. And so that is the first very important point of building human culture in Vietnam. And the second important point is that like you must know when to sacrifice yourself if that sacrifice will benefit the people. This is against all kind of individualist, you know, education in the West, that every man for himself, uh, got, I, got my fuck you kind of mindset. In Vietnam, the opposite. You, all of us, must learn when to sacrifice ourselves if that sacrifice will benefit the people. That is the human culture that we're trying to move towards. And the third point in this is that every single revolutionary career must be related, must be beneficial to the people. Every single thing that we did must for the benefit of the people of Vietnam. The fourth point is about building political system, dân quyền. Dân quyền means that the power to the people. Power to the people. We give power to the people. That is the fourth point. The last one is to build a strong economy. That's it. So there are five smaller points in Ho Chi Minh's point about building human culture in a new society. First, it is self-reliance. Second, it is know when to sacrifice if that sacrifice is good for the people. The third is every single thing that we do is for the people, for the benefit of the people. The fourth thing is give power to the people. And the last thing is build a strong and powerful economy so we can feed our own people. All right. I think that's it for this point. Move on. The fifth point, the fifth basic point, a principle, again, principle of Ho Chi Minh is we have to build a political system that is to enhance the ownership of the people and build a law system, a political system that is by the people for the people. Okay. And that's that. Mostly talk about, let me see, talk about, yeah, democratic centralism, how to encourage people to take part in the political decisions. And remember that it's the people who own this system, not, the governors. And then how to do like democracy in Vietnam, how to vote and all kind of stuff like that. Hmm, interesting. You can read more in the link that I already sent you, but mostly it. And the last but not least, the last but not least, a basic principles of Ho Chi Minh Thought is to build a pure and strong party, aka the Communist Party of Vietnam. Okay, so we learned that the party will lead the country. The whole country is under the leadership of the Communist Party, and but the government will manage that. The party just lead, but the organization that will really operate and run and manage that is government. And the Fatherland Front, other organization like the Fatherland Front, one of the biggest organization of Vietnam, will be the observer, it will oversee everything. And it's like a whole political system like that. And the most important thing is that like he focused on building a pure and strong Communist Party a lot, because it is it's the leadership of the whole country of Vietnam. That is why Ho Chi Minh talked a lot about how to build, like, it is how important it is to have a pure and strong Communist Party. And by doing that means it's so long. Ho Chi Minh talked thought about this. But long story short, Ho Chi Minh said that first we have to build a communist party with members who understand the theory. It's very important. Cadre training that me and EJ just talked about this before. Cadre training that shows the people people with the best potential and then teach them theory stuff, make them understand very deeply the ideology, the reason why we're doing this, and what are we going in the future. And they will be the one who literally lead us onto this path, the total new path that no one have been before. And yes, and in order to have a pure and powerful party that is not corrupted, we need to build the revolutionary morality, ethics of party members. This is very important. This is the final chapter. I think this is the final chapter of Ho Chi Minh when he talk about how to be a good party member and how important this job is and how they are not allowed to be corrupted and act based on their own interests. So that's it. That is basic Ho Chi Minh thought for absolute beginners. So now we have about 30 minutes left. I'm open to all kind of questions if you want to ask. In the meantime, I will, repeat to you one more time about the basic points, basic principles of Ho Chi Minh Thought in Vietnam. First, he talk about how we need to liberate ourselves first. The nation, if your nation is not free, your people are not free, you need to be free first. And then after that, you will free class, the proletariat. And then only after that, we can liberate the whole humanity. In this first principle, the most important point that Ho Chi Minh made for Vietnam is this. Because at that time, lots of people doubted the ability of colonies, of poor colonies like Vietnam, can gain freedom and independence. And Ho Chi Minh pointed out that, yes, it is totally possible for colonies, of poor colonies like Vietnam, can gain self-determination and freedom even before the mother country, even before the colonizer. And we did it. We did free ourselves because, and Ho Chi Minh said, how can we talk about liberating the whole humanity? How can we talk about liberating the proletariat while our country is literally still under colonialism and then imperialism? Can't. That is lots of problem that Western leftists are facing right now, I think. People who try to ignore all other oppression and try to focus on liberating the class reductionist, people who believe that this ignore kind of, I think, just will somehow defeat capitalism and free the proletariat. Okay, now here's the thing. Okay, they talking about the second step, not about the first step, because how can you liberate the proletariat, the working class, without having your own self-determination first? How can you do that without eliminating all other kind of oppression first? The sexism and the racism, white supremacism. Can't. Fascism. You can't. No. Fascism is literally the thing that's killing you right now. You have to free your own people from those oppression, those threats first, before you can think about liberate the whole proletariat. That is the biggest problem of the class reductionist. Okay. The second point, the second principle of Ho Chi Minh said was like one, this revolutionary path the Vietnamese people means that after having a successful revolution, after having own self determination and freedom, you must immediately start building socialism. Means that new society that you just built. That's very important. You cannot just have a revolution and after that going right back to capitalism, or you liberate yourself and then you become another like colonizer. It's exactly like the USA, the American war. After they liberated themselves from colonialism coming from the empire in the UK, they immediately become the biggest colonizer and the imperialist of the whole world. That is not what we are fighting for. Nope. And also within this second point means that after or like running your whole the own society, you must be able to protect it. Means that you must train your military, train your people to protect ourselves from all the enemies from the outside. Next point, the third point is about how to build, a new to build a great unity between different ethnic groups in our society. As I said, we had 54 ethnic minorities in Vietnam with different languages and different cultures. So believe it or not, we are very diversified kind of society. We are not just Vietnamese. We have 54 different ethnic minorities. Okay, lots of ignorant racist Westerners saying like, "Oh, Vietnam is that's peaceful because just so easy to run because you 99% of Vietnamese in Vietnam are Vietnamese." It's just like they saying like 99% of Asians living in Asia are Asians. Like what? Like you're fucking racist. Like ignorant. You don't know shit. It's like it's harder to run a society like in the US because we have so many different skin colors, quote unquote different races, quote unquote. Why in Vietnam 99% of you are just Vietnamese? Fucking racist asshole, you know nothing. We literally have 54 different ethnic minorities in Vietnam, different culture and different languages. And of course you know shit about this and you just sound like 99% of Vietnamese are Vietnamese. The red unity, the third point of Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh Thought. The fourth point is to build a new human culture. And within this big principle, there are five smaller points. First, our new human culture means that self-reliant mindset. We have to be like just like rely on ourselves first before we cannot wait for other country to come help us. It's good that they help us, but we cannot just sit there and wait for them. We have a story, kind of famous saying in Vietnam, "Há miệng chờ sung," means that like you just like lay down there in under a fig tree and open your mouth and wait for like a fig that will like fall into your mouth. No, we're not like that. Or like we just like go sit it under a tree and wait for the rabbit to run into your pocket. Now, so human culture first is self-reliance mindset. That is why Vietnam will never be a vassal state or close allies to countries like the USA. And lots of Westerners, they know nothing about our country or about our foreign policy, about our belief, about our policy. That They just laugh at Vietnam like, oh, Vietnam, what are you talking, Vietnam? They both saying like, oh, Vietnam is now a vassal state to China, and at the same time, Vietnam is close ally to USA. The two signs. I laughed my ass off whenever I heard of that because whenever I saw that, people told that to my face like, you know nothing about our country. No, you don't. That is why you can just talk out of your ass like that. Because literally the first belief of Vietnam is self-reliance. We're not gonna be a vassal state or close allies to any country. In 2019, the Minister of National Defense in Vietnam said this openly, publicly to the whole world that Vietnam will never side with any country against other country. Nope. He said this when the USA at that time asked Vietnam to allow them to put a US military base in Vietnam. We just said fuck no. And Vietnam will never side with any country against other countries. But of course, nobody even, all of the newspapers just talk about, oh, the US is like requesting Vietnam to do this. The US is asking Vietnam to do this. They act like Vietnam would just do exactly what the US asked. And when we said no immediately, openly, publicly, in the international press. But none of those newspapers reported our answer. They just all reported that, oh, the USA asked Vietnam to put a military base here. And at that time, a lot of people on Twitter tweeted at me, say like, Luna, what's up with this? What's going on? Because those articles, they just like reported about it like Vietnam already agreed and the USA would put a military base in Vietnam at any moment. Like, dude, we said no immediately. It's not even the first time, and it will not be the last time that the USA asked to put a military base in Vietnam. The answer will be always no. Just look at like Vietnam just got a war. What out of the war with the USA 50 fucking years ago? Until now, every month we still fight like unexploded bombs on the ground of Vietnam. Hundreds of barrels of toxins still got buried under our soil. Vast land of Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos still contaminated, and we cannot grow anything on it for maybe 100 years to come. And they act like Vietnam will agree to for the US to put a military base here. Like, what? Those lunatic people. Mm. Okay, self-reliance, and the second point is to know when to sacrifice. You're always willing to sacrifice yourself for the benefit of the people. The third is everything that we do must be for the people, for the benefit of people. The fourth is to give power to the people, and the fifth is build a strong economy. Yeah, strong economy. Lots of people saying like, "Oh, you're socialist. You claim that you're like you're socialist and communist. Why you still have an economy? Why do you still use money? Like, it's business because we are still saying that we just build socialism. We are building socialism. And in order to exist in this capitalist hellhole where literally the US is still the most powerful, the most influential country in the world, how the fuck do you think that we can eliminate money and don't have an economy? Like, what the actual fuck? Okay, having building a human culture means that, oh, as I will say again, one of the most famous quote of Ho Chi Minh. In order to have a socialist society, you have to have a socialist people who understand socialist ideologies, have socialist values and socialist manners. That is very important. That is why we build human culture. The fifth principle of Ho Chi Minh is to build a strong political system that is by the people and for the people. Of the people, by the people, and for the people. All right. And the last one is to build a pure, strong communist party with members who like have a great revolutionary ethics. Understand revolutionary ethics. That's just it. That's it. Yeah, talking about the Sino-Soviet split in the 60s and the 70s all the way to the 80s. It's just sad, the two superpower cannot find an agreement, and they just this is a big lesson of communists all over the world about you know having a successful revolution is hard, but running a post-revolution society is even harder. It's extremely hard, and very much likely you will fail. That is why until now there are only 5 countries in the world who can just claim that we are Marxists. America today is desperately in need of combat liberalism thought. Most here still believe they have a bright future here despite 30 years of unbridled capitalist exploitation. Did Uncle Ho share discuss his thought with other global South nationalists, socialists, for example, Kim Il Sung, Tito, and Fidel Castro? Yes, he met a lot of people. Yes, like he never met Fidel Castro in face to face, but you wrote a lot of letters together, and he met like not just like Kim Il Sung, Tito, but he also met like Sukarno, the Indonesian revolutionaries. We met like um, Sufanuvong, the Red Prince of Laos, and many other leaders of the world too. Yes, and he talked about that a lot. The global South nationalist, socialist. Checking the chat right now. We have about 15 minutes left, huh? Okay. It's so sad what happened to Indonesia. They used to have the biggest communist party in Southeast Asia, I think, with millions of people in the 50s, 60s. But the US just totally eliminated everything. Just to go read the book, the Jakarta Method, how the USA and the CIA and all the fucking horrible people just destroyed the whole movement, just gutted the whole movement of Indonesia. Ay. Yeah, the Pol Pot thing. Ugh, it's rough. We were also fooled by Pol Pot in the 50s. When literally Pol Pot received support from Vietnam in the 50s because he claimed himself to be communist and he wanted to have a communist party in Cambodia and joining the movement with like Vietnam and Laos. So and we were fooled by them. And Ho Chi Minh kind of supported him a little bit in the 50s. We did not support him a lot because we were busy fighting against French colonialists and then the USA imperialists. But right after that, 1974, 1975, when we were like winning the USA and finally won the Vietnam War, he showed his true face and he just like became like the most bloodthirsty like regime in the world. Just look at the ratio between the people who died and the population of Cambodia at that time. The Khmer Rouge was one of the most bloodthirsty regime, genocidal regime in the world. It was horrible. And we had to stop them. And we tried so hard. It took us like from 1974. They started attacking us in 1974. And we tried so hard to use like diplomatic front, try to talk to them diplomatically, to stop them, to persuade them to stop attacking us. But finally, in I think in 1978, something like that, I could be wrong when I said 1979, Pol Pot, the Khmer Rouge soldiers, attacked the border of Vietnam and they went to An Giang province, a province of Vietnam, right next to the border with Cambodia, and they slaughtered 3,200 villagers in that An Giang province in the district named Ba Chúc. Just go Google it, the Ba Chúc massacre, BACHUC, BACHUC, Ba Chúc massacre. Over 3,000 Vietnamese citizens, innocent women and children, mostly, were slaughtered horribly by Khmer Rouge soldiers. That was why a few months later we had to send militaries there to volunteer. We call for volunteers to go to the south, go to Cambodia to end that genocidal regime. We didn't just, we tried so hard to talk to them first for years, for 5 years, but they're still doing it, so we had to. And the sad thing was that China at that time in 1979 under Deng Xiaoping, because they supported Pol Pot, China under Deng Xiaoping and the USA, the CIA, shake hands with each other and support Pol Pot. And China, when they knew about Vietnam were about to send soldiers to the south to Cambodia to end Pol Pot, they immediately attacked the north border of Vietnam, and they also had massacre, Tống Chụp. It's Tống Chụp massacre in the north border of Vietnam in 1979. TONGCHUP, the Tống Chụp massacre of Vietnam. And Vietnam at that time, again, we had to fight against China under Deng Xiaoping, and then still send people, soldiers, to the south to fight against Pol Pot, and we won again. Our people just constantly in war all the way until the 80s. So it's a very sad part of history of Vietnam, and it caused like a huge tension between Vietnam and China, and our relationship between two countries in the 80s and in the 90s was really freaking bad, really freaking bad, all the way until like the late 90s, after like Vietnam tried to talk about normalizing the relationship with China, with the USA and also with China. Only then our relationship got like a little bit eased off, and about early 2000 we kind of normalized our relationship again. So I no, we did not. I don't know where you heard this news from, but we did have Cameroons in the 50s, all the way in the 50s and a little bit in the 60s, when they were just like a small group claimed to be communists trying to gain power or something like that. And Vietnam, like just like we also have like Laosian, like the Pathet Lao at that time too, the Communist Party, a Pathet Lao we call them. Yes, the same, kind of the same. But in the late 60s they started showing their true face, and in the 90 in the 70s, like they really like they I told you from 1970 fucking four they started attacking Vietnam. In 1978 they caused like huge massacre in the south of Vietnam. So now, Wikipedia, huh? Uh, uh, Wikipedia is run by a bunch of right wingers, and the English site of Wikipedia was like a very fucked up reactionaries run that. All right, so Cameroon's kind of attack Vietnam started from 1974, and we spent next 5 years talking to them in diplomatically way, and they still refuse. And finally, the final straw that broke the camel's back was the Ba Chúc massacre, where they literally massacred 3,000 Vietnamese people. So a few months later, we sent soldiers to Cambodia to end that. Like Wikipedia is like uh you can start from it, and then you learn the basic information, and then you go check the source, and then you move on. You move on and you actually read the source that they listed there and go deeper and deeper. It's just like a start, but not the only source. You don't take Wikipedia as the only source. No, you don't. It's not a reliable source at all. It's like, uh, yeah, that is a very fucked up time. As I said, we all fall by Pol Pot. It's like we call Pol Pot as like a fascist opportunist. Because he saw that by like appealing to Vietnam and Laos and China, he can gain power to to do what he wanted to do. So he just like lie himself into the movement and confuse a lot. I mean, we were kind of surprised that China supported Pol Pot after like years of they trying to attack Vietnam and kill their own people. It's crazy. It's insane time. Dong was attacking Vietnam. Yes, this is a part of very sad and complicated history between Vietnam and China that usually I don't talk about it in front of a lot of too many Western, especially white leftists, because of the already existing the xenophobia thing, and the USA is trying so hard to recruit Vietnam into like anti-China, make Vietnam becoming a vassal state to the USA because we all have a common enemy, China. So I really usually don't want to talk about this, but so before I talk about this, like the 1979, the border commits between Vietnam and China, you must understand that this is just basically a fact that it did happen in 1979. Okay, and Vietnam and China, we all already talk about this and deal with this a lot, and our relationship right now is totally normalized, and we like good like trading partner with each other. We like buying a lot from each other in our relationship. We're trying so hard to maintain our relationship because we know that the USA always been trying to take advantage of this. All right. So I'm not advocating for anti-China xenophobia narrative perspective here. It's just a fact that I hate my phone. Why? Oh gosh, this. All right. So yeah, it's just happened. China đã done helping attack Vietnam in 1979 and kill a few dozen of thousands of Vietnamese people in the north border of Vietnam, and it caused Tống Chụp massacre. And that's it. Vietnam was embroiled in war in 1970. Vietnam literally intervened to put down the Khmer and was the only party to actually successfully kick them out. Yeah, Vietnam was actually the only country that success only country, not just only country successfully, the only country that tried to stop Khmer. And at that time, you know what? This is a fact. I want to talk about this too because it relates a lot to the current situation. But I'm just telling you that when Vietnam decided to send volunteer soldiers to Cambodia to stop Khmer Rouge, we were terribly punished by the United Nations. I think the NATO at the time, like the CIADO at that time, not the NATO, the CIADO. The CIADO is like the NATO version of Asia, you know, and a bunch of like a few 7 or 8 countries. I could be wrong, 7 or 8 or 12, something like that. Countries joined together, including the USA and Australia or something like that, and Philippines, I think, joined together and tried to sanction Vietnam and call the whole world to sanction Vietnam because we dare to. We call it like the invasion. They call us invaded. Cambodia, and like we invaded a democratically elected government of Cambodia and tried to put them down, and we were terribly punished. And the whole world called for sanction, comprehensive sanction Vietnam, and we did. We were sanctioned by the USA, by the whole world at that time. That was why, my video about how Vietnam had to go through severe sanction in the 70s and in the 80s, in the 90s, and all the way to early 2000. It was because we won against the USA. Yes, the USA was mad and they did not want to lose in Vietnam. They still want to punish us. And the best reason for them to do that was we invaded Cambodia. We tried to stop Khmer Rouge, of that, according to them, a democratically elected government of Cambodia. And of course, the Pol Pot called for help from both the USA and China and many other countries. Vietnam was terribly sanctioned, even in like the ASEAN countries, the 10 other countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. Yeah, sanctioned Vietnam because we dare to do that. And after we won in the 80s, we put down. We successfully kicked out Khmer Rouge, and they had to run away. And we tried to set up, a new party member, a new government, the communist government in with Hun Sen was the prime minister at that time. Hun Sen, prime minister of Cambodia. And you know what? Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot and his henchmen ran away to Thailand, and they live a really happy life all the way until like 2000, right? When they were brought to the international court, and suddenly at that time, the whole world took credit for putting down Khmer Rouge. Nobody talked about how Vietnam was the only one country that's like sent people, soldiers, to end that genocidal regime. And thousands of our people died because of that out of our country in Cambodia. Nobody talk about that. Nobody apologized to Vietnam for sanctioning, for joining the USA to sanction us comprehensively. But when they Pol Pot and their henchmen, his henchmen brought to the international court over the country, talk about how like, oh, it was their credit to like they investigate and successfully brought them to international court thanks to those countries that now Pol Pot will pay for what he did. Well, when did Cambodia bring back monarchy? They never really fully eliminated the monarchy. Even when Vietnam in the 80s, when we set up a new government with the Hun Sen, the communists, to be the prime minister of Cambodia, they still had the royal family, and it still remained as a kingdom of Cambodia. You know, just like Thailand, they still have their own family member. Good night, Lane and Luna. Bye bye. Well, you know that we all mad Vietnamese when we talk about how, like, in the early 2000s, Pol Pot were brought to the international court and his henchmen too. And then all the country talk about, oh, it was that it was my country, it was this country that, like, found out about all the mass grave, investigate the war crime committed by Pol Pot, and now it is us brought them into court. Nobody fucking talk about this fucking country that literally against the whole fucking world to end the Pol Pot regime, and we were terribly, comprehensively sanctioned for decades because of fucking that. Nobody talk about the 3,000 victims of like Pol Pot genocide on Vietnamese people, but they fucking hypocrite. Nobody talk about how they were backed by the USA. No. And until the fucking now, people are still saying that Vietnam's invasion of Cambodia at the time when Vietnam were actually the bad guy. We invaded Cambodia. Like, why did we have to invade Cambodia, quote unquote? Why? Because our fucking Pol Pot communists are supported by fucking the USA and China under Deng Xiaoping. And you know what? This is a real thing that the vast majority of Vietnamese people are not in favor of Deng Xiaoping. We hate Deng Xiaoping because he was the one who gave that order to attack Vietnam in 1979. That is why it's very ignorant and very racist for white people, especially white leftists, quote unquote, in the West, to claim that Vietnam is now Dengist. Because, for fucking hell, man, we hate Deng Xiaoping. Because it was Deng who gave that order that attacked Vietnam and caused like the Tông Chủ massacre in the north of Vietnam while we were about to send soldiers to end Khmer Rouge. We fucking hate Deng Xiaoping now. Oh, Vietnam is now Deng. It's like, you dumbass. Ugh. The Philippines. It's a different story. It's just so complicated. I feel sorry for Philippine people. They tried so hard to have self-determination, but they failed. And they under the US occupation to this day, and now their country is turning into fascist. The new fascist guy just won the election, literally the son of the former fascist prime minister of Philippines that literally like exploit the whole country, became extremely rich. His wife had a collection of 3,000 shoes, and now his son just won the election. It is a story of a country with great potential of gaining freedom and self-determination and liberation, but they failed, and they were heavily occupied by the US, and now because of the fucking US occupation, they turn into fascists. So whenever we talk about how like Vietnam, a reaction Vietnamese reactionaries always saying like, oh, Vietnam would be so much greater if Vietnam didn't win the Vietnam War, and if like the South would be so much richer under the U.S. occupation. Like, look at Philippines. They all think that they would be like South Korea, but actually like you're gonna be you're gonna be like just Philippines. So look at the fucking Philippines. I'm just like it's so bad. All the communists in the Philippines right now being hunted, executed by the government, been going, never stop. And the country still. I talked to a Filipino comrade a few weeks ago. It's all like they literally like the curfew still happening in the Philippines right now. And they just use like the drug war to fucking terrorize the whole country. Who could have predicted that, right? South Korea is sad too. It is. It is sad. But the thing is that because they have a really good they have a really good marketing team. So lots of people, especially Vietnamese reactionaries in the global South, they still look at South Korea as like a successful example of how a country, like under the help and the support from the USA, they turn into super rich compared to their brother North Korea, the horrible communist hellhole of the PRK. God damn it. Yeah. So the Philippine dictator retired in Hawaii to help Bush Senior. Ugh. You're right. If I had the money my father stole, I would give it to y'all. Honest. Thailand is still under the dictatorship. Yeah, and the king. Thailand. Yeah. Yes, the military dictatorship and the control of the king. The king who has like 14 concubines, married to the fourth queen already, and about 12 or 14 concubines. And he traveled out of the country more than the time he stayed in the country. Claimed to be a king of a country, and you literally mostly live in Germany. Oh gosh. Is Ho Chi Minh is a word? No. We just call Ho Chi Minh Thought. That's it. Dong and Nixon, the worst combo, yes. The South Korea have a communist party is illegal in South Korea. They just announced that a while ago, I think, last year. I think I could be wrong, but the communists are illegal. Communism is illegal in South Korea. Yes. So I doubt that they actually have any active communist party in South Korea. Okay, we are way over time. I think that I will need to cook some lunch right now for my mom and dad. So, see you next time. Hope that you will remember you learn a little bit about Ho Chi Minh Thought, the basic principles. Remember six principle. Remember that, and remember this is not about the whole world. This is about Vietnam and for Vietnamese people only. So don't get confused. Bye, everybody. See you next week.